My name is Jim Kirby. I'm a former planner from with Ontario Power Generation, and before that, Ontario Hydro. I've been in planning related areas for most of my life. I did do my master's degree in a scientific area, namely in the University of Toronto Institute for Aerospace Studies, where I looked at a subject called magnetohydrodynamics and doing some computer modeling of the flows in a MHD generator. That's a way of generating electrical power without using any moving parts. Because of temperature problems, it's gone nowhere. But I have the scientific knowledge as well as the practical knowledge about businesses and uncertainties and forecasts. And I've seen every mistake there is to make. I'm part of them. And we've done the right things on many things, and I'm very proud of that. But what I'm here to talk to you today about isn't planning, it's global warming. And why I'm doing that is I've been retired since 2005. I'm 77 years old. I don't need any money, and nobody's paying me to do this. I'm concerned, and I believe I have a moral obligation, and you have a moral obligation. We have a moral obligation to our grandchildren and our children to make sure that we leave them an earth that is in some kind of shape that they can have a decent quality of life. And that's my purpose in doing this. It's my only motivation, and that I hope I succeed because we need to do something, and we need to do it in an expeditious manner, and we cannot afford to ignore this problem. And there's consequences to ignoring it, and that's what I want to talk to you about. I've learned a few things in my 35 years of working, and one of them is that I can take a data set and look at it one way, and it seems to show one thing, and then turn around and look at it a different way, and it shows something completely different. In this case here, I have two views of the same data. One is the number of forest fires by year from 1982 on and I measured it from 1982 because I wanted to. I used to fit a line to it, and so it's measured from 1982. These are years from 1982. Um, you'll see here that here is two outliers at the very beginning, and if I allowed a conventional least squares method to fit the line, I would end up with an upward sloping line, but it would miss most of the data because a least squares line weights these 2 points too much, and it pulls this rotates this down, and it misses most of the data. The least squares technique, which doesn't matter what it is, it overstates the effective outliers, and so to reduce that, I minimize the absolute value of the differences between the line and the points, and so that the point slopes down, but it would if I isn't correct for that slope up. The number of fires by year, the evidence is that it's decreasing with time. Okay, and that, of course, would be a subject of much joy in the fossil world and much celebration. But I then took the same set of data and looked at the millions of acres per year against time, the number of acres burned versus time, the large fires only. The large fires are what matters. There's many, many, many small fires that don't amount to anything, and they put them out very quickly, and they're gone. They're recorded, but they looked at only fires greater than 300 acres in size. And the number of acres is growing with time quite markedly, actually. From 1982, we're looking at going from 2 to 10 million acres. That's a massive increase, and you can't explain it away by looking at the previous graph. So the forest fire, the wildfire problem is growing. The question is why? Okay, and let's have a look. If I learned anything in my 35 years of planning, I learned that major problems are always have more than one contributing cause. And this is no exception. In the United States, wildfires are usually started by man's activities up to and unfortunately including arson. But that's the way it is. That that though would affect the number of fires, but not their ultimate size. The reason they're growing so fast is a drought. The drought dries out the trees. The trees end up being kindling, a lightning strike, or worse. Some careless person's actions, a campfire or arson, ends up starting a fire, and then it just spreads because the conditions are right for it to spread. So the drought is ultimately responsible for it. The drought was lasted for 20 years in California and much of the United States. They were all along the Colorado River. The drought was ended, ironically enough, by a series of atmospheric rivers, which dumped massive amounts of water in certain areas of California, and it resulted in flooding. The wildfire damage itself was worsened by the fact that people were living in areas that they didn't live in before. They wanted to move out to the country. They got a nice spot in the wherever, and unfortunately, there's a fire hazard in that area, and that deepens the damage by the fact that people are living where they didn't live before. You could end that somewhat anyway. I'm not an expert on zoning, but it seems to me that the problem may have been made worse by zoning regulations. I mentioned the insurance industry because of a conversation that I had while I was waiting during a 10-hour delay on a flight to go on vacation. One of the individuals there was a retired insurance agent, and he told me that the insurance industry is a good source of data for me because it keeps copious records of damage due to all kinds of weather-related events. Going back into the 1800s, if you want it, they have detail because their living depends upon it. But it's only one example, but it's a non-governmental one. I know a lot of people out here don't believe government agencies. I don't know why, but that's beside the point. But here's a private enterprise making their living in the capitalist system, and they're concerned about the damage that's coming at them from global warming. Concerned enough that they're pulling out of California you sell policies or you don't make money, and yet they're going to pull out of a major market. That's not going to happen actually, because they're going to negotiate and they'll find a way around the rate increase limitations. But homeowners are going to pay a hell of a lot more for their houses. The attitude of the insurance industry is a warning sign about what's coming at us. It's not just NASA, it's not just the NOAA, it's not just the universities, it's everybody, including the insurance business. They're all looking at the same thing and they're all saying, "Uh-oh, we're in trouble." And what are we going to do about it? We're going to have heat waves. We're going to have cooling centers without power because we lose power occasionally when you got uh, heat temperature sensitive generation and temperature sensitive load, and that's not a good combination to have. And you're going to have cooling centers that don't have hospitals are going to be jammed with elderly and things. You're going to have problems with your social stability. I don't want that for my granddaughter. Do you? Do you want that for your grandkids? No, I know we don't. I leave you with one question.